Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're anything like the people we talk to, you probably have this feeling, right? That the one big thing standing between you and, that goal you want,
Yeah, whatever it is.
right? Launching a project, keeping a new health habit, or just feeling calmer at work,
Yeah.
is your own lack of stamina. The story we tell ourselves is always so brutal. If only I had more motivation.
If I were just more disciplined.
I just need to be more consistent. It always feels like a personal failing.
It is the single most common stumbling block we see in the research. And what the sources we pull together for this deep dive reveal is it's genuinely freeing. The problem, as you just said, is almost never motivation or discipline. The true exhausting, energy-sapping issue is this hidden trap of obligation.
Obligation. It's such a simple word, but it carries so much weight. We dove into a stack of material on this exact thing, this friction between obligation and choice, and how shifting it completely rewires everything.
Everything. From your nervous system and energy levels to, the quality of your leadership and even your income.
That's the mission today. We're unpacking how this simple pivot from an external I have to an internal embodied I choose. It restores energy and flow.
Exactly. We want to show you, the listener, how true responsibility and commitment emerge naturally when that pressure is gone. It's about stopping the habit of just responding and starting to truly choose.
Okay, let's jump straight into the trap itself, because obligation is. It's a master of disguise. It rarely looks like a chore.
No, it wears the cloak of responsibility.
Exactly. For years, I confused the two. I honestly thought the harder something felt, the more responsible I was being.
That's the trick, isn't it? Obligation kind of hijacks the language of duty. Our sources detailed the exact internal dialogue, and it's so important to recognize. It sounds like, I should be doing this.
I have to send that email.
My team is relying on me completely.
And the most toxic one, the one that really weaponizes your own sense of duty against you is, it wouldn't be responsible not to do this.
That phrase is a psychological weapon. It makes resistance feel like a moral failure. But here's the key distinction. When that task is driven by external pressure or fear or just expectation, the body and brain don't register that as sustainable effort.
So what does the system register it as?
It registers it as a threat. The moment you are operating from that have-to energy, you are subtly forcing your nervous system into survival mode.
Survival mode. Okay, but I have to challenge this a little for the listener. If I'm running a startup or hitting a deadline, isn't that intense focus, that survival push, isn't that sometimes necessary?
That's a crucial distinction. A short-term, chosen, intentional sprint, that's fine. It can even be invigorating. But chronic, unchosen obligation becomes the default.
Yeah.
And the consequences are immediate.
Okay.
In this forced survival mode, you see energy drains, not because you're working hard, but because you're fighting this internal friction.
Resistance.
Exactly. Resentment starts to build. Consistency collapses because your system is demanding a way out. Motivation becomes, totally unreliable. You are responding to a threat, not choosing from a place of purpose. The energy cost is monumental.
I think we all recognize that feeling, that deep, bone-deep exhaustion where you haven't actually done that much, but the energy to just start was astronomical. That's the survival mode tax.
It is. And the sources connect this directly to the neuroscience. Obligation activates the brain's threat circuitry. Now think about what that circuit is for.
Fight or flight.
Right. It's for immediate physical danger, a loud noise, a real threat. It's not designed for the complex strategic tasks of modern life.
So we're trying to write a strategic report, but our brains are wired as if we're running from a bear. That seems inherently inefficient.
It's worse than inefficient. It's self-sabotaging. When your actions are driven by this threat state, the behaviors are all about avoidance. You start avoiding the fear of consequences, avoiding letting people down.
You're just trying to be seen as good or responsible by these external standards.
Exactly. So you get short-term compliance. The task gets done, maybe late with a lot of drama. But you've essentially traded a sense of accomplishment for emotional debt.
Yeah.
You're signing up for long-term psychological and physical burnout.
Right.
And the body is incredibly intelligent. You can push yourself using raw willpower for a while, months, maybe years. But here's the big aha moment from the analysis.
Okay.
When your body eventually resists this, when you feel that deep fatigue, that irresistible pull to procrastinate, you shouldn't mistake that resistance for laziness.
I always mistake it for laziness. I criticize myself relentlessly in that moment. What should I be doing instead?
You should recognize it as the body's intelligence.
Yes.
It's your system firing off a warning flare, telling you it cannot sustain operating outside of your choice. That resistance is intelligent preventing a complete collapse. It's the body saying, I'm turning off the pressure valve because this path leads to damage.
That reframing is.
Yeah.
Wow, it's profound.
Mm-hmm.
If my resistance is actually intelligence signaling a system failure, how do we pivot? How do we start pushing and start choosing?
So, real change begins at a very subtle moment. The conscious awareness that you're not choosing. Awareness is the pivot point. You have to stop trying to force the behavior and instead just observe the feeling behind it.
An internal check-in. So what are the feelings that tell me I'm in obligation, not alignment? How do I spot it?
The feeling is unmistakable once you learn to recognize it. If you check in and notice, this feels heavy, or this feels forced, or I'm doing this because I dread what happens if I don't, that's obligation. Mm-hmm. The sources also note that this awareness often brings a wave of irritation or fatigue.
Why is that irritation a good sign? It feels terrible.
Because the system is finally waking up. It was numb to the pressure before. That irritation is the energy finally returning and pushing back. Nothing changes until the obligation is seen. Then, and only then, does choice become possible.
But choice isn't just mentally saying, okay, I choose this. We learned that the choice has to be registered deeper than that.
Absolutely. The material really emphasizes that choice is somatic. It's registered by the body, not just a mental calculation. Your body knows the difference between a pressured yes and a clean yes.
Okay, walk us through that, the somatic difference.
Think about getting an email late on a Friday, asking for a huge deliverable by Monday morning. The pressured yes feels tight, right? Your chest contracts, jaw clenches, you feel anxious, maybe resentful. It's a contraction.
Yeah.
A clean yes, when you truly choose it, feels grounded, calmer, expansive. Even if the task is hard, the nervous system stabilizes because the internal battle is over.
So the body itself is a litmus test for whether I'm truly choosing. But how do I know if the choice is really genuine? I could lie to myself.
That's where the real test comes in. When choice is real, the option to say no is allowed. If you truly feel that saying no would be catastrophic, then your yes is obligated no matter what you tell yourself. True choice has to contain the capacity to decline.
And here is the paradox we found. Once you integrate genuine choice, that sense of responsibility, the good kind, it comes back, but completely transformed.
It does. This reclaimed responsibility feels entirely different. It's calmer, grounded, self-led. It's stabilizing, not a burden, because it stems from a decision that honors you, not an external demand. You're acting from integrity, not fear.
So if we expand this out, true responsibility only really emerges after choice.
Yes, it stems from self-trust, not fear or expectation. If you choose a course of action, you trust yourself to follow through because you are the source of the commitment.
That shift must be the engine for consistency. We spend so much energy trying to manually force consistency, but it seems like it's less about forcing and more about aligning.
When a commitment is clean, follow-through becomes natural. The need to push collapses because it starts to arise from identity. It's not something you're doing, it's who you are.
Right, the identity integration. The nervous system adopts a new core truth. I am someone who chooses my commitments.
And that new identity changes your behavior without willpower. Think about what that means for leadership. If your system identifies you as someone who chooses, boundaries become effortless. They're just a natural expression of who you are.
And authority changes too. It stops being a performance, where you have to constantly manage how people see you.
It does. Authority becomes embodied. You don't have to perform it. You are the source of your own decisions. Action happens without the internal fight. Leadership becomes something you are, not something you do.
And this has direct, practical results. For work, for money. We talk so much about the hustle mentality, but the sources imply that obligation energy actually repels success.
Absolutely. Income, opportunities, respect. They don't respond well to obligation energy. Think of a manager who's always obligated and resentful versus one who is genuinely choosing their commitments. People and opportunities gravitate toward the latter.
So if I'm a leader and I've shifted from I have to manage this team to I choose to lead this team, how does that show up, say, in a negotiation?
When you operate from obligation, you're reactive. You underprice, you overdeliver, you fold too easily because you're driven by the fear of, I have to get this.
Right.
When you operate from choice, your authority is regulated. You set a price because you chose that price based on your value. You don't need external validation. That grounded authority is what opportunities respond to.
And that's where flow comes back. Not because we're doing more,
Yeah.
but because we've stopped that massive internal energy leak.
Exactly. That internal fight, the resentment operating under threat. That is the single most inefficient use of energy imaginable. When that stops, the energy is freed up for real creativity and connection. The system's in alignment.
So we've traveled the whole spectrum today. From realizing the problem isn't motivation but obligation, to understanding how that forces us into survival mode, all the way to seeing how genuine somatic choice leads to grounded responsibility.
It's a full nervous system reset. Shifting out of that threat circuitry from I have to the clean, stabilizing I choose.
Okay, so we always want to connect this back to you, the listener. You might be hearing a few internal shoulds differently now. You've maybe identified some areas that feel heavy. What's the immediate next step?
Here is the simple but deeply challenging question the source material leaves us with. It's the final thought we want you to carry. Where in your life are you being needed rather than choosing?
Being needed rather than choosing. Wow, that implies a passive state versus an active one.
And critically, that question isn't a command to fix anything. Don't go out and quit your job. It's purely a place for observation. Just sit with that question and notice the feeling it brings up in your body. That feeling is the data. Because awareness, in this context, changes everything. It's the first step back to choice.
So when Gina offered me the opportunity to do this, I jumped for it because I think anything that you can do that is going to chip away at these limiting the beliefs of things that hold you back is really, really worth doing. So it's been a really lovely experience, and if anybody's a bit worried about it, just do it, because the opportunity to connect through havening is really, really powerful. It's really, really powerful.
But really helpful, I think, in terms of having that kind of guided process just to kind of let the ideas and the feelings and the images flow, and then try and work out what it actually means afterwards, and to come up with, and it made intuitive sense. It's really, really helpful to then kind of have that debrief of, okay, what can we actually do with this stuff? Because that's where we tend to get stuck, is kind of like coming out of it going, oh, this is all some really interesting ideas and thoughts and feelings and images. But yeah, then, you know, how can we actually harness them to do something different? And I think that's been really, really helpful in terms of clarifying really what I need to prioritize to go forward in a way that will deal with some of that stuff that came up.
I would like to point out that I'm actually a therapist myself, and sometimes therapists also need a therapist. So I was really stuck, and then one day a friend posted a link for Gina's wealth and money attracting short course, and I went, this sounds great, I'm just gonna book it. And I loved this so much. I really had an epiphany on that course, and it was only meant to be a demonstration, and yet it was really it just opened up something, possibilities that I was stuck before, and now like, ooh, I can use this to unstuck myself. I'm a great believer that when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And you appeared at the right time. That's all there is to it. So, you know, if anybody is watching this video, it means Gina has appeared in your life. So please give it a try.
She walks where the sky meets the sea, a calm in the chaos, wild and free. The light wraps around her soul. She's ready.